Always cool. Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm Mark Blakeman. I'm the director of the McKnight Center, the executive director here. This is Hannah's show tonight, but I just wanted to welcome you all. One of the really great things about what I get to do at the McKnight Center, it revolves around the people that are part of the organization, and I feel that we've just been very, very fortunate to have a great group of ushers and usher leaders, which are our floor managers, and that's become a really nice, tight-knit group who takes, seriously taking care of our guests that come into the building and also having a lot of fun at the same time. And I hope that you will find this to be a really great place to work and that you have a great experience while you're here at the McKnight Center, and hopefully we'll get to see the same people over and over and over again. We've only been open for a couple of years, and of course it's been hugely interrupted by COVID, but I think that once you kind of get your feel for how things operate here, we are going to probably see the same folks coming back year after year. At least we hope so. I will say one thing about COVID, just to prep you all. The McKnight Center, the building is a campus building, but our organization is a separate company. And although we have routinely followed all the university's policies about health and safety concerns, because we're independent as a corporation, we may be changing some of our health and safety guidelines that'll look a little different than what OSU does. And some of that is a direct result of our guest artist telling us, if you don't have this in place, we will not come and perform. So we are kind of in the potential of some danger of losing some artists if we don't apply certain safety protocols. So, that's an ongoing conversation. In fact, it's all I've done today is talk to agents and managers about their artists that are coming in September and October. So it's a real challenge for our industry as a presenting organization, as a professional venue, but it's something that's just part of the landscape right now. So I just want to let you all know that what we put in place may look a little bit different than OSU, and it's going to evolve too as things change, as the Delta variant, hopefully hits its apex and starts to roll off. And because we're a separate company, we can act a little bit more independent from what the university policies are. So we'll get all that information to you, as soon as it comes out. Things have changed over time, and you can kind of just know that you should expect that, some of those things will evolve as we go on after we start this fall. So anyway, really glad you're here. Great to see a good, big group of people here. Hope you really enjoy this experience, and that I'll be seeing you at concerts this fall. So thanks.
Hi guys. I hate microphones, but here we go. My name is Jessica Novak, and I am the Director of Marketing for the center. And I'm actually going to take this off for just a sec so you can see me without it. So if you see me in the streets outdoors, you can know me and say hi. As ushers here, we're so excited to have you, and you are part of our front of house team. And that means you're also part of our marketing department, which I'm super excited for. So you're actually one of the most important pieces in the marketing team. We have ads that go out, radio ads, TV spots that sort of entice people into the building, but you guys are some of our strongest marketers because you are going to talk to our guests every time you're here for an event. You're going to have one-on-one interactions with them. You're going to smile through your eyes even if you have a mask on, and you and what's happening on stage really make a guest customer experience really special here. So I'm really excited to have you all on the marketing team. I can't wait to get to know you guys. I'm really happy to see some returning faces out here, and I'm really excited for the season. So my office, just so you know, is right behind the box office. So it's also connected to your Usher locker room. So as you come in there or if you're stopping by the box office, feel free to say hi at any time. I'd love to chat with you guys. So have fun tonight, learn a lot, ask a lot of questions, and welcome to the McKnight Center.
So hello and welcome, everyone. I would like to start off today by saying that I am absolutely thrilled that you are here, and I am very excited for what the season has in store for us and to get to know all of you better throughout the year. It's going to take me a little bit to learn 60 names, but we're going to get there. A little bit about me. My name is Hannah Manns. I am the house manager for the McKnight Center, and I will be your fearless leader as we move forward through this season. I graduated from college with a degree in technical theater, and I have a deep, deep passion for the arts, and in particular, spreading them to those that might not normally have accessibility. I grew up alongside an autistic younger brother, and I have personally seen the barriers that he has had to face in order to participate in and enjoy the arts. And so I truly want to make all types of people feel welcome here at the McKnight Center. As we dig into training today, you will notice a couple of trends, and the first is that I have a lot of energy and enthusiasm, and the second is that I truly want every guest that comes to the McKnight Center to have a fabulous time and to be taken care of. So I really have a heart of service, and I hope that I can teach you to have one as well. So to get started, the next people that we need to introduce are our fearless floor managers. So the floor managers, what they do, so they are your direct supervisors. It goes ushers, floor managers, house manager. So they'll be your direct supervisors. They answer any guest questions, and they assist guests with any needs, just like ushers do. But they've been here a little bit longer, and they know the answers to the questions that you might not know, and you can learn from them. And they also conduct a pre-show huddle with the ushers if I'm not the one leading it, so they get to really take charge on some things. All right, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to kind of be going through the Usher manual that I already sent out to everybody, and I'm just going to be hitting the highlights. So I'm just going to kind of breeze on through. If you have questions at any time, raise your hand, just raise your voice, whatever you need to do to get my attention, and we're just going to keep moving through that Usher manual. So number one, general expectations. Please be on time. Your time is very important for each shift. At the beginning of each shift, we will conduct a pre-show huddle. That'll give you all the information that you need to know about the performance for the night. It'll give you time to get in your vest and your name tag. If you have a radio, you need a flashlight to understand your assignment for the night. So every minute counts. Please be on time. Second expectation, when dealing with uncooperative guests, please be sure to attempt to handle the situation yourself first as an usher, and then that way we can really use our three-strike policy. So when an usher handles a situation first, say with that uncooperative guest, then we're going to move it on to a floor manager if it can't be handled, and if the floor manager can't handle it, then it'll move on to me. That way it kind of raises the level of authority that's talking with a person so that they might back down and actually follow the rules. We'll talk a little bit more about this later, but that's just the overview. Next, please don't talk to the media, even if it's just a journalism student. If a journalism student wants to write a paper about what is it like to be an usher at the McKnight Center, you still have to get approval from Jessica Novak that introduced herself here at the beginning. If you forget her name and you're like, I don't know who to send someone on to, send them on to me and I will get them to Jess. Next, be a team player. This job, it is fun. You get to have a good time. You get to really celebrate the arts and welcome people into this amazing space and the amazing artists that we're bringing into Stillwater. So let's be team players. Let's work together. Let's solve issues as they come up. I'm really all about enthusiasm and spirit, so let's do this together. Next, personal hygiene. I mentioned it a little bit in the Usher manual, but I didn't put this note in about no perfume. Please be careful about the scents that you are putting on your body. You will be in very close quarters with people as you're scanning tickets, as you're guiding them to their seats. So just pay attention to how much Axe body spray you're putting on when you get here. We don't want to overwhelm anyone with a smell. Next, concert attire. I did ask everyone to bring any uniform pieces they've already got. That's just so I can take a look at them and approve them. Sometimes there's shoes that are just not quite what we're looking for. And I'm gonna, when we break a little bit later, I'm gonna make sure that I have a chance to look at everybody that brought something. It's those solid black pants, that white long sleeve button-up shirt with a collar that you can put a bow tie under, and then those black closed-toed shoes, and then we provide the name tag, the vest, and the bow tie. Now we're going to scoot on over to personnel policies. I'm just going to hit these real quick. So cell phones might be a little bit different than what happened in the past for all of you returning ushers. What is happening this year is that you may have your cell phone on you, but I do not want you to use it at any time, even for the GroupMe app, unless it is absolutely necessary. The idea is that we never want any audience member to see you with your phone in your hand, because even if you're using it as a tool in that moment, they don't know that. They see you as a college student that's being lazy and playing on their phone, and we don't want to set that impression. So it can be in your pocket, but I don't want you to use it. It's there so you can call 911 if there's a medical emergency. That's the only time I really want to see you using it. Next, autographs. You know, you might think, oh yeah, the little autograph section in the Usher manual, it's not a big deal. It actually is. So when artists write their contracts with the different performing arts centers that they're going to come perform at, they can actually have a specific part in their contract that says if any of your employees ask for an autograph, we will fine you this many thousands of dollars. So it's a really big deal. So as much as I would love Bernadette Peters' autograph, I'm not allowed to ask for one, you're not allowed to ask for one. So please don't do it. Next is attendance. Really what I want to talk about here is say that you realize, oh my gosh, I signed up for a shift the day before I have a really important paper due. I should not have done this. I need to sleep. It is your responsibility to contact the other ushers and say, hey, can you please cover for me? I can't come in. And if you can't find someone to cover, I need you to be here for your shift anyway. So please reach out to your coworkers first to cover that shift. And if you can't find anyone, then please reach out to me. Next, I have the scheduling bullet point. The reason I've got that up there is just to see if anybody had any questions about the way home base works. Did everybody get their invite? Let me rephrase. Did anyone not get a home base invite? Raise your hand. Oh, that's a good sign. Okay, did that right. Did anyone not clock in on home base today for this shift? Ah, okay. All right. Does everybody have their cell phones on them? I assume you do. I always have mine on me. Go ahead and pull out your phone right now. Open up the Homebase application that you downloaded. And in there will be the opportunity for you to sign in for the shift. I will correct your hours so that it will say 6 o'clock for when we started. But go ahead and sign in for the shift. You are getting paid for training. And if you have any more questions about Homebase, please just let me know. For our returning ushers that are for Greenwood School of Music, that small specific group, I actually have some shifts for you this upcoming Saturday and Sunday. So look out for those in the next couple days. As we move forward, I will be emailing you guys to let you know when I will be posting like an entire month's worth of shifts for you to sign up. That first day I'll say, okay, you can only sign up for this many shifts. The day after that, it's going to be a free-for-all, first come, first serve, sign up for what you want. And then the last bullet point on this slide is discipline. So I basically have, for you guys, a 3-strike policy the same way that we do for our guests. The first is if there's an issue, if you do something incorrectly, I will have a one-on-one conversation with you and say, hey, I noticed that this happened tonight. That's not really what we want to do. What can I do to help you be successful so that we can do this the right way in the future? It'll be that one-on-one conversation, that coaching to make sure that you can be successful. The second time that it happens, it will be a written warning to be like, hey, I thought we talked about this, that we would get better with this in the future. If it happens a third time, it can be a fireable offense. Now, there are certain things that you could do that we could skip the first 2 steps. For example, showing up to work under the influence of alcohol or drugs, that would be an immediately fireable offense. I've seen it happen in several performing arts venues. I mean, it's just like that. You're done. And I follow those same rules myself. Any questions about that slide? As I already moved on to the next one. So now we're going to talk about COVID policies. I know that Mark talked about at the beginning because we are separate from the university. We are able to have different rules than what the university has right now. The current mask policy is that if you are a staff member, whether full-time or part-time, you are required to wear a mask in the building. And then the second rule is I will need copies of proof of vaccination for COVID-19. If those vaccination cards that everybody filled out, if you got one of the vaccines, Whether you just bring it to me and I make a copy of it, or you scan it or send it to me. And if you haven't been vaccinated, for every single shift that you work, I have to have you take a COVID test within 48 hours of your shift, and it has to return negative. Rapid testing can be done at University Health Services. You can pre-schedule. You say, okay, I signed up for that shift on Friday, so 48 hours before that is this day, so I can schedule my COVID test on this day at this time to make sure that I get my results before my shift. It's what we are doing right now to protect both our staff and our guests.
Hey guys, can you hear me okay? Awesome. So I think a lot of you all know me. So my name is Brianna Buck. Most people call me Bree. You can totally call me that. So I work for the Greenwood School of Music, and I have an interesting relationship with the McKnight Center because essentially I act as a go-between. You will see me if you are ever at a Greenwood School of Music event. I am here for everything. Basically, I am kind of like, I don't know if you know Alex. I'm kind of like the Alex of the Greenwood School of Music. So what that means is if you are an usher who works Greenwood School of Music events, I want you to know who I am, and I want you to be able to feel like you can contact me if needed. So if you are a Greenwood School of Music student, the way that you will, or usher, excuse me, the way that you will clock in is a little bit different. Here's what's going to happen. If you have worked as a GSM usher before, you know how to clock in. If you have any problems, you can contact me. My email is bribuck, so BRIBUCK at okstate.edu. And if you have any problems clocking in when you have a Greenwood School of Music event shift, just let me know and I can handle that. Even if it's something silly and it's like totally your fault. Let's say you completely missed the end of the pay period. You can just contact me and I can make sure that you get paid. It's 100% really important to us that you guys get paid for the shifts that you work. Now, if you were a new usher and you're going to be working Greenwood School of Music events, the way that you log in is through Banner, all right? So I have all this information in a sign-up packet for you guys, but essentially you will go to my.okstate.edu, all right? You're probably really familiar with that. And on your banner, you'll see the option for employee, and then it'll have your timesheet. So we work probably very similarly to the McKnight, where we have a 2-week pay period. So what that means is when you put your information in, every 2 weeks you have to submit that to a supervisor. And basically, we just compare it to what you have on home base, because I actually have information access to that. We make sure it's accurate, and then we submit it so you can get paid. Okay, does anybody have any questions so far? Yes. Hannah, I think in the past we had them clock in on home base too, right? So both, yeah. Thank you, Hannah. Any other questions before I keep going for a second? Okay, cool. So basically, the common issues that we find is if you are a new usher, there's a little bit of lag time before you're in our system, okay? So after you've completed your sign-up packet, and I'll kind of walk you through that in just a second, there is a little bit of time. We have to manually input your information into the system, right? Like 21st century, kind of crazy. And then there's just a little bit of time while payroll is processing that. So don't be discouraged if you go in immediately and you see that you're not on payroll. It's going to take a week or two. But even if something happens and you accidentally work a shift, we will make sure you get back pay for that. Because again, anytime you're working for the Greenwood School of Music, we want to make sure that you're getting paid adequately. So I'm just going to take a quick second and go through this sign-up packet with you guys. If you are a new Greenwood School of Music usher, and do they know who they are? Now, if you are new to working GSM events, you're going to fill out this sign-up packet, okay? So we've got a lot of information on here. This whole front sheet is just instructions, okay? Because we really don't want you to mess it up. So the silly rule is you have to fill it out in blue pen. And I brought some blue pens with me because, you know, it's a weird rule. So if you need a blue pen, let me know. So basically, you're going to fill out all this information. It should be pretty self-explanatory. There's instructions as you go. But a couple things to keep in mind. So we will need a copy of your signed social security card. So start talking to your parents if you don't own it, like, you know, whoever has it, and be like, hey, I just need a copy of that, just a picture. We also will need your bank information, but you can't just tell us your bank information. We don't want that. We want an official letterhead or a voided check, so that way we can put in your direct deposit information. We will also need some form of ID. It doesn't have to be a driver's license. It could be a passport. It could be your student ID even. As long as we have your signed social security card, we basically just need a picture proving, you're who you say you are. So again, this can be a little bit confusing. So if you have any questions, email me. I'm happy to help. I'm, here to make sure that your experience is a good one. So can you raise your hand if you are a new student who will be working Greenwood School of Music events, and I'll pass these out and then I'll get out of your way. All right, keep your hands raised, please.
All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about accessibility, which is something I'm passionate about, if you didn't pick up on that from my speech at the beginning. So we're going to talk about first assistive listening devices that we have as options for our McKnights and our guests. So both in this space, the performance hall, and out on the plaza, we have a hearing assistance induction loop. What that is basically a large circle of copper wire that goes underneath the seats and the carpet, and it creates a magnetic field so that anyone that has a hearing aid with a telecoil, also known as a T-coil, and steps into that magnetic field, they are immediately connected with whatever we're sending out through our sound system. It's actually really cool technology. I kind of geek out about it a lot. Now, a lot of people that have hearing aids won't know whether their hearing aid has a telecoil in it. Ones that make it more obvious will have a large letter T on it as one of their settings that they can switch their hearing aid to. But again, the majority of people with hearing aids have no idea whether or not their hearing aid has a telecoil in it, and that's okay. If they don't know whether they have one in it or not, and it's not picking up, or they just need some hearing assistance, or anyone without a hearing aid that needs hearing assistance, we have two types of assistive listening devices for them. The first one is a loop receiver. So it does the same thing that a telecoil in one of those hearing aids will do. Basically, we give it to the patron at coat check. It goes around their neck, and then we have 3 different types of listening devices, so like full headset, very old-looking headsets. It's very like early 2000s. It's great. We have earbud options for them, or like a single over-the-ear option, and it just plugs into this box. They turn it on, and then they'll be automatically connected to that hearing loop. The other option is this guy, which also goes around the neck and also has something plugged into it so that they can hear. So this actually picks up radio signals, and these have to be used in the first 6 rows of the performance hall. The reason for that is because those floors, that could lower with the orchestra pit, they aren't able to have that continuous loop in them because it would disconnect every time they raise and lower those seats. So this type has to be used for the first 6 rows of the performance hall. You'll note that I put the note elevator on here because, those blue buttons that automatically open doors with our little wheelchair symbol on them? The one for this building, the only door that has that, is on the east side of the building here on Hester Street, one of these main entrances here. The only elevator for someone in a wheelchair or someone that is mobility impaired to get up to the 2nd floor is on the west side of the building. So that's something to consider when you see someone coming in that's maybe a first-time guest that is obviously mobility impaired or in a wheelchair. You can say, hey, do you need up to the 2nd floor? The elevator is on the other side of the building. It's something that you can quickly, easily address and say, let me get you to where you need to go. And now we're gonna watch a really embarrassing video. So our guests, our goal is to always provide a positive front of house environment where our clients, our guests really are given that degree of customer service that we want to give them to ensure that they feel welcome, safe, and cared for. More than anything, we are here to make our guest experience better. It's those proactive things of when you see someone walking around the lobby and they kind of look lost, you can just walk up to them and be like, how are you doing? Can I help you find anything? And most of the time they'll be like, yeah, where are the restrooms? Please help. It's proactively looking at them and being like, does this person need help? If you're a seating usher and you walk by someone who, you're doing late seating and you hear someone go, oh, I'm having a hard time hearing, you can pop your head over and say, hey, I just heard you say that you're having a hard time hearing the concert. I can actually provide you with an assistive listening device. Would you like that? I can go grab one for you personally and bring it to you here in the audience. It's those proactive moments of what can I do to make this person's night better, to really give that guest experience that we really want to give them. We always want to be friendly, empathize with our patrons. Now, a patron may not always be right. A guest, again, forgot word patron. A guest may not always be right, but they always come first, and we value their opinions at all times. One of my go-to phrases is, letting them let me know what's going on, and then saying, thank you so much for telling me that this is going on. I really value your feedback and your opinion. I'm going to make sure that I address this in a staff meeting later. Or if it's you as an usher, you can say, I'm going to make sure that I let my supervisor know about this situation so that they can address it in a staff meeting. Just something quick and easy like that. Now, your body language, your appearance, your attitude, it really makes up those first impressions. That's why I'm such a stickler about cell phones. Because if you're on your cell phone, you're kind of doing the slump, you're playing, you're looking at something, it's that moment, it's that first impression that you break. They walk up and they're like, okay, this person's on a cell phone. They're not actually going to give me the help that I need. But if you have your cell phone in your pocket and you're paying attention to your surroundings, you're able to see every guest that's walking by, make that eye contact, smile at them, assist them in the way that they need assisted. Every time that you come in contact with a guest, you really have that opportunity to make it special for them. We here, as front of house staff, we're magic makers. I'm a firm believer in the fact that what we do is pretty awesome. We're guides, we help people. The little things that we do really do get to make a difference. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about conflict resolution. Once I find my note that I wrote for myself. So, sorry. If a guest approaches you with a complaint, concern, situation that needs a solution, sometimes the guest will have in mind the way that they want a solution to be fixed, but it might not actually be the best solution that we can offer them. It's really important to learn as much as you can about the McKnight Center, so when things come up, you have those solutions. You know that the family restrooms are only on this side of the building. You know that the elevator's over there. You know how the assistive listening devices work, and you know to make sure if they're in the first 6 rows of the performance hall to give them one of the radio receivers instead of one of the loop receivers. It's those things that we can really go above and beyond with the knowledge that we have about the McKnight Center to make sure that we solve problems the way that we know how to solve them. One of my tactics, if I have an upset customer, is number one, apologize. Say, I'm sorry that that's happening. And then second, explain the situation if it's appropriate. Sometimes people don't need or want an explanation about why something's happening. They just need to vent. Sometimes people just need to complain. Next, I like to let them know that their concerns and feedback have been heard. Thank you for letting me know. I will make sure that I address this in the future so that I can solve this problem. And then last, as one of my trick phrases, I always like to say, what can I do to make this better? If you say that phrase to someone that just wants to complain, it will completely take them aback. They will be shocked that you have just said, what can I do to make this better? How can I make this better for you? It will blow their mind that you have said that phrase to them. Now, if they give you a solution that you obviously cannot give them as an usher or a floor manager, call me. But those are my 4 steps. You've got the apology, explain the situation, let them know that their feedback is valuable, and then 4th, how can I make this better for you? Now we're going to talk about that 3-strike policy that I mentioned earlier, and I would like to preface it with the fact that our goal is to never have to actually kick anyone out of the McKnight Center. We want our guests, when they come, to have a good experience and to do whatever we can to help them follow the rules that we have in place so that they can enjoy the performance that they came to. So number 1, as an usher, attempt to resolve the issue. Do everything you can, have that conversation, and if they're still being uncooperative, if they're not following the rules, we're just going to use a mask example, as all of the returning ushers are very familiar with. Say that you have someone that is refusing to wear a mask. First step, as an usher, go up and address them, say, I'm sorry, but we do have this policy in place. I need you to be wearing a mask while you're here at the McKnight Center. If they still if you catch them later, you see that they don't have a mask on again, that's when you get your floor manager involved. Then the floor manager can go over to them and say, we do have this 3-strike rule in place, and you can, as an usher, say the 3-strike rule when you first interact with them. If we see you without this mask on again, it is a 3-strike rule. So when the floor manager comes over, they can say, this is your 2nd strike. I need you to have that mask on. If you do this a 3rd time, we may have to kick you out. And then if they continue to refuse to wear a mask, that's when I get involved. And I have to have that hard conversation with them of, I'm sorry that you're really not wanting to wear a mask. I understand it can be really frustrating. Nobody really likes to wear a mask. However, these are the rules that we have in place to keep other people safe. And if you don't want to follow this rule, I am going to have to ask you to leave. Am I good at that? Yeah, okay. Okay. I'm going to move on to the pre-show huddle. The pre-show huddle will either be myself or a floor manager, just depending on the performance. And the pre-show huddle is the time that we get to brief you on anything that is important for that night's performance. For example, exactly what moment can someone come in for late seating? Are food and drinks actually allowed in the house for this performance? Oh yeah, actually people can have their cell phones out recording this Tim McGraw concert. It changes show by show, and the pre-show huddle is there so that at those performances, we can let you know if anything's different. So now I'm going to talk about the 3 usher roles. We've got our scanning ushers, program ushers, and our seating ushers. Our scanning ushers, as is in the name, get to scan tickets. They guard the outer doors to make sure that no one comes in at inappropriate times, and they are also in charge of late seating. Our program ushers hand out programs, and then if we have a big rush of people trying to come in at once, I will either have the program ushers assist with seating or kind of be that barrier to be like, please wait right here, we're going to have a seating usher to come guide you to your seat in just a moment. And then the seating ushers, as is in the name, they are the people that do the initial seating and are supposed to sit in the house during the performance. So we're going to kind of walk through a typical performance now, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what each type of usher does as we walk through kind of the timeline progression of a performance. So before the performance, please, 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 only open the doors when the house manager gives the signal. Again, those contracts with the artists, it's very important that we don't open it until we have the clear to actually open the house. So typically what's happening, I've got my radio on, and someone in the production team is, like our stage manager, is gonna say, hey, Hannah, we are clear to open at 7 o'clock. And I'll be like, cool, great, thanks. Sometimes though, they may be having technical issues, there may be a disaster, it could be anything that makes us hold the house. So until I give you the all clear to open the doors, do not open them. The house does typically open 30 minutes before curtains, as long as there's no disasters happening. And then before the performance, please just prevent any guests from entering before the official house open time. Now, I'm bringing back the chimes. We're gonna see if they work this year. There will be chimes that go off in the lobby 10 minutes and 5 minutes prior to the start of the performance. And that's kind of a way to get the audience's attention to say, hey, you need to come into the house and sit down because there's only so much time before the doors close. During the performance, so our seating ushers will be inside the house during the performance. The 2 things that you need to do while you are a seating usher and you're in the house, you're monitoring the performance. So if you hear any technical issues, like the speakers are giving feedback or the lights are blinding the audience, anything like that, you can let me know, and then I'll make sure that I let the production team know. And then the other role for a seating usher is to monitor the audience. This is your opportunity to kind of watch out for people that are on their cell phones when they're not supposed to be, people that are taking pictures, things like that, so that we can enforce the rules that we have here. And then assist any guests with needs. So, if you see someone get up while it's dark in the house that's trying to leave, you can jump up with your flashlight and say, here, let me guide you. And then, of course, if there are any emergencies, please, and we will talk more about them later, if there are any emergencies, just report and then assist with them if they're occurring in the house. Our scanning ushers during the performance are actually outside of the hall, guarding the doors. So the scanning ushers will be assisting with late seating and then preventing any guests from entering at inappropriate times. I'm going to talk a little bit more about late seating, I think, on the next slide. Program ushers are kind of my in-betweens. So if I have anything that I need assistance with, I will be going to the program ushers and say, hey, can you come help me with this while the performance is started? If not, I want you to sit in the house and observe the performance and do the same thing that the seating ushers do. Watch the audience, watch the performance, make sure everything's good. So late seating are ticket scanners that are our faithful door guards, making sure that no one enters at the wrong time. It is your responsibility to enforce the late seating policy. Now, late seating will change from performance to performance. Sometimes, say it's a musical, they're going to say, you can let anybody in through the big first opening number. Other people like Itzhak Perlman will say, this is the exact moment that you can let them in, and after that point, they are not allowed into the rest of the performance. They can be very intense about it. So during the pre-show huddle, we will let you know exactly when that time is that you're allowed to let people in for late seating. If you have a late guest come up to you, make sure that you just offer an explanation. You say, all right, so we are about 3 minutes into the performance. At 7 minutes and 30 seconds, I am allowed to let you inside. Until then, we have screens here in the lobby where you can watch and listen to the performance. And then once we hit that moment, I'll be able to let you inside. By giving people that explanation, it kind of helps them calm down a little bit about the fact that they're late and that we are going to be able to get them to their seat. If someone is so late that we have missed the late seating opportunity, depending on the performance, we are allowed to let them into the house and just seat them in the nearest, closest possible seat. So that way we don't have to take them through the whole audience and distract other people. And that's just if they are really late and if the rules allow. And we'll be able to brief you on that during each pre-show huddle. Now, using a flashlight, which I don't think I brought one today, but just a quick reminder, when you turn your flashlight on, make sure you turn it on pointing at the ground so that you don't blind anyone. That's very important. More important than you wouldn't think that I would have to talk about that, but it's an easy thing to miss. Okay, and now we're gonna move on to intermission. And again, if you have any questions as I am talking, please just raise your hand. I will call on you. Brittany. Mm-hmm. It depends on each show. It really just depends on what they want for late seating. Sometimes it's totally fine to let them go all the way back to their seat. Other times it's like, okay, I'm going to have to seat you here since you had to leave for a restroom break. Yes, Breck? Yes. Okay. So I have a question. Mm-hmm. I know you talked about letting them know if there are any technical issues with the performance. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, so you can just take a note of it. If it's not something that's like a technical emergency, you can just take note of it, say, hey, at this performance, there was feedback. And then at the end of the night, you can grab me and just let me know. Or if you want to let a floor manager know that has a radio, they can let me know over the radio as well. This year, if it's approved in the budget, I will actually have more radios so that we can have one at most of the areas that all the ushers are at. We'll see. Fingers crossed. I'm very excited about it. Yes, Tucker.
Say it's like a little kid and they start freaking out and they can't go inside. What do we do in that situation? Do we just try to calm them down? Do we just take them inside and get their parents? If it's just like, I'm talking about like a little kid who's like back there in the middle of the second act, like she was saying, they start freaking out because they're not allowed to go back in.
I think in that situation it would be appropriate to escort them back to their parents. Yeah, because if they've separated from their parents, we definitely want to get them back to them. Yep. Intermission. So if you are in the house, you are responsible for opening the doors at intermission. Your cue every time is going to be the lights coming up in the house. That way, instead of us trying to kind of expect when it's going to happen, this way, when the lights come up, you go and open the doors. That's going to be your cue every time. It's going to be the same thing for closing the doors at end of intermission. As soon as those lights start to dim, shut those doors. Intermission is typically about 20 minutes, and I'm going to have those chimes again. I'm going to do the chimes when there are 5 minutes left of intermission to try and get people's attention. And then during intermission, please just remain near your assigned area, and then you can answer guest questions. One of the most common ones, of course, is going to be where are the restrooms? There's not a lot of signage in this building guiding people to the restrooms, so you're going to get that question a lot. Be prepared for it. Mm-hmm. After the performance, when the lights come up at the end of the performance, that's when we open those doors. And then after the audience has cleared, We are going to go row by row as a team. And when I say row by row, I mean actually walking through the entire row. It may seem a little ridiculous, but when you walk through the entire row, you might see if something got stuck in the seat itself. It helps it so that we can find those lost items or any trash. We will have disposable gloves in the usher room for you to grab, so that way if you're picking up any trash, you're not touching it directly with your hands. That's gross. So we're going to row by row check for those items. Again, like I mentioned earlier, if you do find a lost item, please just make note of where you lost it. Lost it? Of where you found it. That way it helps, if we find it in seat, GG14, then I can look up the seating map and be like, okay, who's in GG14? Great, it was Melinda Rao. I'm gonna give her a phone call. We found her scarf. It makes it so that we can get things back to people. And then after we've cleared the house, locked the doors, checked for all the trash, just check in with me at the end of the night, and I'll say, nope, you're good to go. Go ahead, turn in your vest, your name badge, walkie, flashlight, a bow tie, all the things back to the usher room, and then you are good to clock out and go home for the night. And then we will have specific people that are walking the building and checking restrooms to make sure that the whole building is clear at the end of the night, and that will be assigned. It'll be like me and the floor managers and maybe a couple other people to check all those spaces. And now, I know you're so excited about this. We're going to do another group activity. All right, we are now going to talk about radios. So floor managers, and fingers crossed, a small selection of ushers will have radios at each performance. Now, we're just going to talk about some quick radio etiquette. Now, if you don't know this about me, I actually spent 3 years as a police dispatcher. So I was radios and 911 phone calls for a living. I did it all the time. I did the whole night shift thing. So radios are kind of my jam. So we're just going to talk about some quick radio etiquette. Number one, before you speak, know what you're going to say. Just take a deep breath. Be very calm about it. Process what you want to say to someone on the other end before you click the button. As long as you take that moment to think, this is how I want to say the thing I want to say, it will help you out a lot when you're on the radio. Next, do not curse on the radio. This is very important. Even a single F word, y'all know what that means, can actually be a fine for thousands of dollars. And I'm actually serious about that. So please do not curse or use any profane conversation on the radio. And then also, please don't interrupt someone else's transmission unless it's an emergency. So for example, say that you are switching to someone else's channel. Like I will often have to switch to channel 1 to talk to the production team. Excuse me. When I do, I take a moment to see if anybody else is talking before I key up. That's the sound of the radio turning on, by the way. So as a quick example, if I am trying to reach someone else on the radio, I'm going to say, Hannah to Tucker, and then Tucker is going to say back to me, perfect. Or he can say, go for Tucker, this is Tucker, any of those are fine. Using your name is actually really good because then the person that you're trying to reach, you know that is the person that's talking back to you. It's like, oh, okay, Tucker is the one that is actually talking to me. Obviously, there will come a certain point where I know everyone's voices on the radios, but until then, names are really good. And then remember, never say anything on the radio that you don't want the entire audience to hear, because there may be staff members that have a radio on them, but they don't have a headset, and so it is projecting out to anyone that's around them. Another tip just about this building, the walls are thin, and the acoustics are so great that there are, there's like a lot of reverberation. So if you say anything anywhere in this building, it is likely that someone will hear it. So be very careful when you're talking about guests that are here, about the performers, things like that. Just make sure that we are polite and kind and friendly at all times. And now we're going to talk about emergencies. So again, my history as a 911 police dispatcher, I've seen a little bit of it all. So if you encounter an emergency, whether it's in the lobby or in one of our performance spaces, the most important things that need to happen immediately are that I and Alex, our production manager, know about it and that someone calls 911. We're going to talk a little bit about calling 911 later and the best approach for that. But in an emergency situation, please just stay calm. Most of the time in emergency situations, again, if you just take a quick, deep breath and kind of center yourself, the situation may be way less serious than you think it is, and then we can address it in a calm way. You know, whether it's someone has slipped and fallen, and because they are an older guest, maybe their hip is hurt and they can't get up, or someone walks into a glass door and then their head is bleeding, or it could be someone having a seizure, a stroke, a heart attack. It could be anything. So in those emergency situations, make sure that someone with a radio lets me know so I can immediately come to you, and either you or someone else needs to be calling 911. Sick and injured patrons, guests, it's kind of the same thing. You know, make sure that I know about what's going on. And then if the person is injured, you know, make sure that you have everyone clear the area around that person, whether they're sick or injured, so that they can have that space. Make sure if it's a seriously injured person that you do not move them unless the surrounding situation is life-threatening. Hopefully, we are not in a large life-threatening situation, but make sure that you only move them unless that surrounding situation is life-threatening. You know, if someone's injured, we need to leave them where they're at. Next, don't discuss the reason for an incident with any others or admit responsibility. So this kind of comes back to what Becky said earlier about saying, I'm sorry. If you say, I'm sorry to someone that's injured or anything like that, this is when it makes the McKnight Center liable, because you said 2 words. 3 if you count the contraction. So it's very important if someone is injured that we don't apologize to them for the situation. We just say, how can I help you? Are you hurt? You know, where are you injured? Phrases like that rather than apologizing. And again, if you have any questions, raise your hand. Most important thing when you're calling 911 is that you give them a location. Whether it's an emergency here or somewhere else in the rest of your life, if you call 911, that address is the most important thing for a dispatcher. I'm very serious about this. If a dispatcher doesn't know where you are, they can't send you help. That's the gist of it. You know, even if someone calls 911 and just says 705 Western University Avenue and then hangs up the phone, that dispatcher is gonna get them some kind of help. So the most important thing, again, address, 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 address. So say we have a medical emergency. The dispatcher, normally the first thing they're gonna say is something like, what is your location? What is the address of your emergency? Something along those lines. So when you pick up the phone, you can say, I need an ambulance to 705 West University Avenue. One more time as a group. 705 West University Avenue. Oh, nice. I like the add-on. That was good. And then after they've established that first address, that first location detail, they're going to start asking you for more information. They're going to say, what is your emergency? That's when you can get as gory and specific as you can. Give them every single detail you have. You say, we have a woman that has ran into a glass wall. She has fallen, and we think her hip is hurt. She cannot get up, and she's in her 60s. You can get as specific as you want, and they're going to need even more location information about where they are in the building. Are we in the performance hall? Are we in the recital hall? Are we in the front or the rear orchestra? The box level? The balcony? Do you know what specific seat they're in when they're injured? The more details you can give a 911 dispatcher, the better. They love details. I love details. So again, number 1, where, what is going on, who is it? You know, is the person older? Are they young? Is it a child? And then when can also be important, especially for medical emergency. Did this just happen? Like, are you walking by a person and then you see them drop to the ground having a seizure? Or did you walk up and find them and no one else was around and you don't know how long it's been? Those details are very important, especially in medical emergencies. Anybody have any questions? I see Becky first. Mm-hmm. Yes, so I will actually be getting in touch with all of you to set up CPR training times. It is in the budget this year for every single usher to go through CPR first aid training. Yep. Yes, Tucker. They can tell you not to call, but we're going to call anyway. And then when the ambulance gets here, they can refuse their assistance. But our policy is to always call. Brittany, did you have a question? So there's a thing called geofencing for 911 centers where supposedly when you're in a certain area and you call 911, it should take you to the right call center. However, we are right on the edge of campus, and if you call 911, you will likely get a Stillwater dispatcher rather than an OSU dispatcher. So what Stillwater will actually do is they will take the call, especially if it's a medical emergency, they'll get you on the line with a medical dispatcher, and then they will call over to OSU PD and say, hey, we've got a medical emergency happening at the McKnight Center, send an officer. It's the OSU Police Department's policy that for every single medical emergency that happens on campus, that they send an officer to assist as well. It's a really good policy that I agree with, specifically because they are very good at giving directions through all of the buildings on campus because they walk through these buildings all the time. So, if we say it's happening in the performance hall, that officer can make sure that the medical technicians, the EMTs, actually get to the person that needs help. Good question. All good questions. Oh, no, it's not wanting to. There we go. Okay. All right. This is going to be the longest, most boring part of this presentation, and I apologize, but it's very important. Now, I am going to preface the fire evacuation section of this presentation with, in the Usher room, I'm going to have a binder that includes all of these slides so that every single time that you come to work a performance, you're going to say, okay, I'm a seating usher, house right, in the front orchestra. And you're going to be able to look in this binder and say, okay, seating usher, front orchestra, right side, this is where I take people in case of an emergency. So we're going to kind of fly through this tonight, but I'm going to have that binder for you so that you can look at every performance that you're at. So if a fire alarm goes off in the building, open any and all doors that you see from into the performance hall or the recital hall so that people can start moving. And then never return to the building unless you've been specifically instructed by full-time staff of the McKnight Center or first responders such as the fire department. So we're going to talk about the layout. So at the bottom of the photo is the front orchestra, and the back is the rear orchestra. I actually labeled them this time because I realized I was missing those before. So that front orchestra is right next to the stage. So for this level of the performance hall for evacuation, the front orchestra is going to head up and then out the side doors, and the rear orchestra is also going to head up, go down the back stairways, and then exit north across University Avenue to that green space next to Bennett Chapel that I pointed out while we were up in the patrons lounge. Now, if we have someone that needs the wheelchair lift in the right rear orchestra, what happens is that that's the only person that's going to get to go up the back way. Everybody else is going to come down the stairs on that right rear orchestra to head down to the center towards where everyone in the front orchestra is going, and they're going to all come together and then head out those side doors and then cross University Avenue. This is a chart with a lot of symbols on it. So we have SU for seating ushers, PU for program ushers, FM is our floor managers, and then TS with the numbers are our ticket scanners. So essentially, we have our floor manager that sits in between stands in between the front and the rear orchestra, and they're going to be giving directions saying like, please head this way, please go that way, making sure that the flow of traffic is going well. Our seating ushers are going to be at those side doors, and these are our front orchestra seating ushers are going to be at those front doors, directing traffic up out of those doors so that they can head out the side doors into the performance hall. The program ushers are going to be stationed at those doors so that they can keep directing traffic to keep going north towards University Avenue, and so is that ticket scanner number 2. It's going to be like the next step in the line. You're going to be, keep the ant line moving, please go this way, please cross University Avenue. The ticket scanner 1 for each side, you get to be line leaders. So you get to actually physically walk across the street and be the head of the evacuation, getting people to the right place. We also have our program ushers in the back of the rear orchestra. And they are down there at the bottom of the stairs to direct them, again, out those side doors, and the seating ushers to be there right at the doors on each side of the rear orchestra. I know I'm saying a lot of terms. A lot of you, this was your first time in the building, and that's okay if you're having a hard time understanding. It's a lot of information, and again, we're going to have that binder with all of this in there, and we can go over it in every single pre-show huddle. I'm just going to keep moving so we can get out of here. Next, we're going to talk about the box level. It's going to be split into two sides. So box left is going to exit house left, and they're going to take the grand staircase down and then head out across University Avenue just like everybody in the orchestra level. Now, box right is a little bit different because of the way that it's set up. Everybody in the box right level is actually going to head out through the parking garage, down the parking garage stairs, and these are that first group of people that are going to cross the street to go to the construction area of the art museum. So that's the way that they're going to be going. So again, we've got all of the different symbols. We've got our floor manager that's directing traffic. You know, box left, please go that way. Box right, please go this way. We have our ticket scanner that's house right. They will check all of the boxes house right, make sure that they head out right towards the parking garage. Our ticket scanner house left, for the balcony and box level, you're going to be guiding people down the stairs, and then ticket scanner number 2 is making sure that the balcony guests are down the stairs, and then we'll actually wait for the box level floor manager, and again, we will have the binder. We will review this every single pre-show huddle. Now, if we have someone in the box level that needs to ride in the wheelchair lifts, the floor manager is actually going to take over for that house right ticket scanner, and they are going to do what they were doing, checking the boxes on the house right. That ticket scanner is actually going to escort the guest out of the house right side of the performance hall and then down the parking garage using the ramp. Balcony level, pretty straightforward. We're split into two groups again that oh, I didn't put the right and left markings on this one. I apologize. So our house right, which is the red, this group, again, is going to head down their balcony stairs, and then they are going to exit through the parking garage. The house left, which is our blue side, is going to head down the stairs and then down the grand staircase across University Avenue to that green space near Bennett Chapel. We have a floor manager, again, for this level, directing traffic. You go that way, you go that way. They are really the voices in the chaos. And then we just have our seating usher and our balcony ticket scanner, making sure that the whole level is clear and then escorting them out towards the parking garage. And again, if we do have someone in a wheelchair lift in this situation, all of the balcony is actually going to exit house left and take those grand staircase, the entire balcony, so that way the person in a wheelchair lift has the entire stairs house right, so that we can get them down in the wheelchair lift and not block traffic. We can get everybody else on one side and then get them down in that wheelchair lift. A much more simple map here in the recital hall. Everybody goes out that door and immediately out to the door to the right, and then we go across University Avenue. Boom, boom, boom. We're done. Much simpler. Does anybody have any questions about this, about like how it works, anything at this time? It is okay if you don't, and again, we'll have the binder. All right, no questions, that's fine. So we do have certain other little things that we're going to be doing in an emergency. So our floor managers are going to be keeping a record of any mobility impaired patrons on each level. So if an emergency happens, they can just zoom over there and be like, all right, you to the wheelchair lift right now, boom. Make sure that the floor managers, make sure you remain in contact with your ushers the whole time, communicate so that we can ensure that safe evacuation of the hall. We are making sure that everybody's exited the building more than anything else. And then each floor manager, if you're on the orchestra level, you get to check the orchestra house right restrooms. If you're the box level floor manager, you're going to check the second floor house left restrooms. And if you're the balcony level floor manager, you get to check the second floor house right restrooms. And then I check as the house manager, check the ones that are left. Ushers, your primary purpose is get people out of the building and then wait with them until you've been given the all clear to enter the building again, and then lead them back into the hall when it's time. Now, tornadoes, we're actually not going to talk a lot about today. What's happening right now is we are still finalizing the tornado emergency policy with the full-time staff. They wanted to look over it before I taught it to all of you, and we haven't gotten to that point. So what's going to happen is after we have confirmed exactly what that is, I will let you guys know in the pre-show huddles and probably some emails. You're going to get a lot of emails from me. But in case of tornado, it's the same idea as a fire emergency. You are just getting people to the safe spaces. And I do have a list of all the shelter areas. I'm not going to read them off for you so that we don't have to suffer through that. And instead, we're going to move on and talk about ticket scanning. And then hopefully we can do this in 20 minutes and I can get you guys out of here by 9. Fingers crossed. All right, so ticket scanning. Another interactive activity in a moment. So I'm going to talk about just very briefly why it's important that we get an accurate head count. So number one is emergencies. When we're getting everybody out to those 2 emergency evacuation spaces, if we've scanned every single ticket of every single person that's in attendance, we know how many people are here, we can get a head count and know that everybody's out of the building. Awesome, everybody's safe, hallelujah. And then if the number's off, we can go, there's still someone in the building, we need to make sure we find them. So it's very important. And other reasons why ticket scanning is important are things like attendance, grant writing for the McKnight Center, and then settlements with different artists that we have contracts with. It's this data that is just very important for everything that we do at the McKnight Center. How many people are actually showing up to the performances when they've bought tickets? It really makes a big difference. So now we're going to talk about how to operate these sweet little ticket scanners. The first thing that you're going to do is switch your scanner from charge to operate. If you don't do this, it will not scan. So there's this little button on the back side, there's an O or a C, switch it to the on position. Next, we're going to use the Google Chrome scanner. It's like a cell phone that's connected to the scanner itself with a little cable. So you're going to use the Wi-Fi in the building, go to Google Chrome on the scanner, and then go to this website. It will be the first website that pops up when you open up any of these scanners because that's the only websites we're supposed to be going to on the scanners. To those of you that downloaded games on the phones last year, don't do it again, please. So you're going to touch the empty box next to the username. And then at the bottom of the bases of all of these ticket scanners, there's actually a barcode, and you're able to scan those barcodes for it to auto-log you in. Now, if the barcode doesn't work for some reason, or you're in a different part of the building and you need to manually log in, then we are going to use the username and password that's on every single ticket scanner. So, for example, Orchestra R1, Orchestra Right 1, and then that password is on the bottom. Moving on to the next one, it's really important that you press the performances button. When you do, you're going to enter in the date for the performances that you're working, hit the search button, and then we're going to select the correct show. You know, days when there's multiple shows, it's really important that you do select the right one. If you don't, then the tickets that you're scanning, nothing's going to happen, and you're going to wonder what's wrong with your scanner. Next, once we hit the scan button and come to this screen, it's important that you touch the empty box before every ticket that you scan. If you don't do this, the ticket will get confused and it won't scan. And then again, you'll be cursing your ticket scanner. Why aren't you working? What's wrong with you? Now, before you scan a ticket, make sure that you take a quick look at it, because if you are on Orchestra Right and someone shows up and is actually in a box seat, you're going to say, oh, you're on the wrong level. You need to go upstairs. Go take the elevator. Or you can say, oh, you are all the way on the other side. It would be better if you entered from the other side. Other things to note on every ticket is, are you at the right performance? That can happen sometimes where someone thinks they were supposed to be the Friday night of a Broadway musical and they're actually supposed to be there on Thursday. It's like, oh no. But in those cases, we're usually able to send that person to the box office and figure something out for them. And every single person, regardless of age, must have a ticket. We have a no babes and arms policy, so no matter how young the child is, they have to have a ticket. Next, for scanning, once you've put that cursor in that box, you're going to have the person hold out their ticket. Don't touch anybody's ticket or phone. You don't need to do that because you can be really far away with these scanners and it'll still scan. Once you point it down to the barcode, we're going to click. There's going to be a beep. And then if it's good, it's going to turn bright green. Good ticket. Awesome. If the scanner beeps but it stays gray, then the ticket was not scanned. A good ticket is a green scan. Then you know that it's scanned. We're good to go. Now, if it turns red instead, there's an options button off to the side, and you can see why a ticket scanned red. You can say, oh, they're at the wrong event. Or maybe I just held down the button. I accidentally clicked the button twice and scanned it twice. That can happen. If that does happen, don't panic. You'll realize, okay, I accidentally scanned it twice. I can let this person into the hall. Oh, see, I'm talking before I get to the slide. And then at the very end of the night, after you're done using the scanner, make sure that you switch the scanner back to charge so it actually goes into charging mode before you put it back into its place and the charging base. Now, that was a lot of information all at once, but if there's ever anything wrong with your ticket scanner, I want you to remember the acronym SICKO with 2 C's. You're going to look down at your scanner and be like, gosh darn it, you sicko, why aren't you working? And then you're going to go, oh, okay, that acronym that Hannah made jokes about at our training. So first is show. Did you select the right show that day? The I is for internet. Are you actually connected to the Wi-Fi right now, or did it temporarily drop because of the location you're at? C is for cable. There's a cable that connects the actual ticket scanner to the cell phone that's on top. If it comes loose, then it's not going to scan anything. And your O, did you switch it to the on position when you first started, or is it still in charging mode? So just remember SICKO and you'll be good to go. Show, internet, cable, cursor, on. And again, if you have any problems with your ticket scanner, please grab a floor manager or myself and we will come help you out. Now what we're going to do is we are actually going to practice scanning some tickets. If I can have all my floor managers come up here. We have a zero tolerance slide. I just want to remind everyone that those that show up to work under the influence of alcohol, non-prescription drugs, or any other illegal substance will be terminated immediately. There are other things that could happen that would be an immediate termination, but this is the big, big, big one. And then the next slide, this is all of my contact information. So office, email, cell phone. I will let you know that I do not check my phone that many times during the day. So the best way to get a hold of me is a phone call rather than a text message. I know, it's like, Hannah, how are you 27? Don't you have your phone on you all day? I don't check it that often, so the best way to get a hold of me is with a phone call. Yeah, and that is the end of our Usher training, and 9 o'clock, I did it! Thank you very much, guys. I'm so excited to have you on my team. Don't forget to log out on home base now that we're at the end of training. If you have any questions that you just wanted to ask me at the end one-on-one, that's fine. I see Tucker has a hand. Yeah? Oh, yes, and then just make a quick line and just show me your uniforms if you brought anything, and then I'll just yay or nay. Courtney? If you just want to take a picture and send it to me, that'd be fine. Yep. What's the parking situation? Okay, so, yes. So the parking situation is the parking garage it's monitored 24 hours a day. So if you don't have a parking garage specific permit, you cannot park there. The first level is paid, like, hourly parking. I'm sure you don't want to do that. My suggestion is these streets, like towards Hideaway, because in the evenings, which are the majority of the Usher shifts, they don't enforce after like 5 o'clock, I think. Yeah? Justin, did you have something to say? Yes. Oh, yeah, just bring them up to me.